As I said before, audio program interfaces are fairly similar. One difference between Audacity and Logic is that Logic asks you to set up your session before giving you your interface. When you tell Logic to create a new project, you must select the settings. For now, we're going to create an empty project using only audio. And I can create 3 audio tracks at this time. In Logic, the transport section is on the top, but you monitor your level on the lower left. You can use the slider next to the level meter to adjust your input level. If you notice, Logic's transport does not have a pause button. In order to monitor your input, you must turn on input monitoring, which is the I button in the track description area. If the I button doesn't appear, you'll have to check your audio preferences. Go to the Logic Pro X menu, select Audio Preferences, and make sure you've selected the input and output devices you want to use. Then you might have to go to your input settings on your track and select Input 1. Logic sometimes gets too smart for its own good and decides to give odd numbers tracks input 1 and even numbered tracks input 2. If you only have a mono microphone, this doesn't help, and in fact takes time to undo. In order to record on a track, you must first select the R button on the track you wish to record, then use the red record button, and recording will begin. In Logic, you can set a count in, which is a period of time before the program starts recording, or even turn on a metronome, which will give you a beat to record to. Logic has a vertical line which indicates the playhead. There's also a timeline above the tracks. My timeline probably looks different from yours because I've set it to minutes and seconds instead of a musical grid, which uses measures and beats. If you have musical training, feel free to keep it on the musical grid, but I find most students create stronger work without the pressure of a beat-based timeline. To change the timeline to a clock instead of a grid, you'll need to go to the File menu, choose Project Settings, and uncheck Use Musical Grid. In addition, you should go into the Settings menu on the track interface and select Snap to Samples. Otherwise, Logic will continually adjust the placement of your sound files to fit its own musical grid. You may have noticed one other difference in the timeline. There's an area highlighted in yellow. This is the loop area. When you press play, only the selected area will play over and over. This is useful when adjusting settings on effects. This is very useful when you're adjusting settings on effects. You just click and hold on the timeline to adjust the loop area, and you can turn on and off this feature easily with the cycle button. Just like Audacity, you can change your view from an overview of your whole piece to a small segment. The 2 sliders next to the track settings menu change the vertical and horizontal zoom respectively. Once you've recorded some audio, you'll notice that the waveform is represented on your screen. The box it is in is called an audio region. You can move audio regions around your timeline and even from track to track by clicking on their title bar and dragging them into place. You may have noticed that my tracks are higher vertically than yours and contain more information. You can get this in-depth view by hitting A for automation or by selecting the Show Hide Automation button. Automation is one of the most important features in audio editing. I just leave the automation on all the time. Automation defaults to showing volume, but by holding down the right side of your menu, you can access other controls including panning and whatever effects you've added to your track. You can easily add tracks when using the New Track button. To duplicate a track, use the New Track with Duplicate Settings button. You can also double-click in the empty area below the tracks. You can rename your tracks by double-clicking the name of the track. Currently, this track is named Audio 3, which isn't very descriptive. It's good to get in the habit of labeling your tracks, just as you labeled your layers in your work with images. Most of the space on my window is taken up by the track descriptors and another area called the browser area. The browser area shows you the resources that you can use for your project. Right now, it's showing that I've recorded 2 audio files. Note that the name matches the name on the region. You can turn off the browser view by hitting the browser button. The browser area also allows you to import files. For example, by going to the Audio File menu, you can add an external file to your project. I normally keep the browser window open, but I make it much smaller. You can customize your interface by hovering your mouse over the divisions in your workspace until the icon changes to a vertical line with a right arrow, left arrow, or even both. Play around with your view settings until it's comfortable for you.